All right, welcome. I have prepared just a little bit of the philosophy I use to design the Blackboard layout and that sort of thing. I'm a classroom instructor. I'm not an expert on online teaching, although I have to take classes called Epic 30, and so if I get a little grumpy from time to time, you'll know why. So anyhow, let's start with going through an overview for those taking 110, the principles of biology, and just go over some of the basic things. So this is what was in your syllabus, and what is the breakdown of the class, of what I consider the class lecture part. It's more of the voiceovers, case studies, assignments, and exams. And I de-emphasized the exams and put some of the emphasis on the case studies because I think there's some fun with the case studies, and you'll get a better view of some of the hands-on things and discussions that normally we could do in a lab and face-to-face, but so case studies will help. And then the lab part is 25%, which is our quizzes and worksheets, and then we have 2 lab practicals, a midterm and a final, and it's based on the lab materials that we go over using the Odigia Labs that you purchased there. Okay, so I use a program called Easy Grade Pro because of all the weighted type of grading that goes on. I do not trust Blackboard for that. This is my own bias. Easy Grade Pro is written, it's owned by the Blackboard company, whatever the parent company is. They could implement it so it would make it easy, but I have ways of interacting between the two. But this program manages your grades very detailed, weighted, and specifically the way I've stated here in terms of the evaluation. I generate with this program grade reports, and you can see the various regions. This is just a kind of an example student sort of thing, what you could expect, and there will be assignments, and this was a final report, and a lot of these won't be filled in as you go, so it is sort of a checklist in terms of getting a grade report. You can see all the things that we are going to do. If it's filled in, then you've completed it and you've gotten a grade for it. I may not have upgraded all the work, and it may be empty in some of those. Doesn't mean you haven't turned it in, I just haven't graded it yet. And so anyhow, you know if you turned it in or not, so you can kind of evaluate that as we go. But the grade reports will send out every time there's like an exam or a lab practical or something, and so you can kind of see where you are. What's nice about that is it represents your overall grade, lab and the lecture part right there, and so you know exactly where you stand. It's calculated accurately. It will not, I don't push the magic button to change that or anything. It is calculated in real time. And so when you get your grade, you'll have the latest and the greatest. Now, if you have, my wife teaches, well, she's a tech at Wake County Public Schools, and she's told me that, which of course I assume that you probably had, if you're a Wake County student, coming from one of the schools, that you had some experience in Blackboard, which is not the case. And it's hard for me to expect a student to have experience in Blackboard if you've never used it. If you use Google Classroom or some of the other ones, Moodle or whatever, Blackboard might be of a hurdle. So I have placed in the Getting Started folder Blackboard Help, which you can hit. This is for, just click, and that'll take you to help just for students, and a list of various things, and it's there for you. And a lot of times, some folks may be shy or whatever, embarrassed that you don't know something. No, Blackboard is a monstrosity of features. It has all sorts of nice stuff, And so anyhow, we're going to use those sorts of things. And there is, if for some reason you lose your password, well, what happens is your password will expire. You have to keep that updated. I don't know what it is for students, every 30 days or 45 days. You have to kind of update. And if you don't, then it appears that you've been dropped or something, which is not the case. You just can't log in because your password expired. So you can always go on and retrieve your password, which, by the way, will be at the help desk if you need that for students to do that. So just a tip from your Uncle Ed, please keep your passwords current. So the overview, the way the labs work out, is that we have a lessons area, and there's the lessons. You just click there, and you just click and go to the lessons in week 1 or week 2 or whatever it is. I show and highlight the week, and then it just talks about, you know, what it covers and that sort of thing. And if you go and click on that, and then you'll get a various sundry subdirectories or folders or whatever you want to call them, but these, you click and you go into that folder. It's represented as a folder. You have reading assignments, instructor modules, just overall assignments. And now these are tied to Blackboard, so all you have to do is complete them, and then you can upload them on Blackboard, because I did it as an assessment, and it's an easy way for you to submit the work. Chapter quizzes. I'm going to do 2 different ways with this. First one is a textual PDF format file, and I'm going to go over each of these so that it'll be really clear. So reading assignments is self-explanatory. This whole page that's on there is a static page, and all you have to do is just scan down, and I have all sorts of learning objectives, an outline, I have vocabulary, which can be found in the study guide as well. But if you want an online version of it, is right here for you to use. It's important. You can print this out, screen dump, whatever you want, and you can use it as a checklist. Now, what I learned to do eventually, I didn't know, by the way, I am dyslexic. And I did not know that until I was in my master's program, about the first year into it. And I had a electron microscopy instructor wrote at the top of the paper I submitted, "See me," which, well, that happens for me a lot, being dyslexic. I did not know it, and turns out he was severely dyslexic, and he offered to help. And boy, I tell you what, that changed my life. My attitude is play to your strengths. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Don't dwell on your weaknesses, dwell on your strengths. And I find, for an example, 80% of my students are visual learners. Put visual type of content in front of you. If you don't know what type of learner you are, I have a test that's at NC State. I can give you the link. You can do it. It takes about 10 minutes of your time. And it'll help classify you as to what type of learner you are, and just play to your strengths. And if you have some reading disability and those sorts of things, hey, I understand that, and I've learned to utilize my dyslexia in a way that I have an ironclad memory as a result once I get it in, and there's certain tricks that I can do to do that, and you can do the same. So anyhow, that's why I try to customize some of the material for the type of learner that you might be. The instructor modules is my input for this particular chapter, things that I may have added in there that are not in the textbook directly, or other additional resources I think you benefit from the years that I've been doing this. And of course I try to do this now online. So the very first one is this module type. You click on that and it takes you to the module, and that's it. That's the final page. You can look at on there, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But that shows you my videos and things that you can go to. They're YouTube videos, and really clean. You can view those and at your leisure. Now, some say, well, they're pretty long. Well, just stop somewhere in the video, and then you can pick right up. You can bookmark, and the videos are pretty nice. They stream, so you know while you're using the bathroom, you know you can get in 10, 20 minutes, 2 hours, depending on what you're doing in there. But study time, and so I try to make it available, and YouTube does a great job. I give you a copy of my presentations, and I do it in PDF or PowerPoint here, and also in the chapter listing. I have a podcast. It's not one that I produce. It's produced by the book company. If you don't like my droning or whatever, the podcast you can play in your car or whatever you want to do and listen to professionally voiced over. No video or anything. It's just sound. I try to include animations if there are any. I give you the advantage of those. I have visual study guides and all sorts of different types of study materials, so you can find those that best suit your type of learning style, and no one will know, so you can pick up what you want and go with it. And that is the instructor modules. Now we'll go to the assignment part, and now this is tied to Blackboard. And usually if you look at the icon over here, we have a document, and then we have this one that's got some kind of ruler and a pen. That means you can modify it. If you notice, it is a document, it is a Word document, and you can actually open it and type into it and put your answers and then submit it into the Blackboard system. And that's the nicest way. It's paperless, and then I grade them. And again, if I'm up all night and I have big eyes and whatever, I still prefer seeing actual content from the student. Just make sure you haven't plagiarized or do any of that stuff. The Blackboard does those checks and things, and so I know who's been naughty and nice. And so I did provide, in this case, a scientific literacy assignment, and this is trying to get you ready to be able to read literature and find the truth when you can. And I gave you some various choices you can do in terms of cloning humans, or I think I did another one on cannabis and effects on children and that sort of thing. And you can read that, and then you fill out the form article summary here to give your impressions. I just want you to know that these articles are easy to read. The very first abstract tells you who done it right up front, and a lot of that is how to read a scientific paper. It's right there. You can read that, and it exposes all the little dirty secrets. Well, actually, it's not dirty. They're actually very useful secrets that you can now pull out the data for that paper. You may not want to read the paper because it really doesn't hit whatever it is that you're looking for. But the most common question I get from a student in this course is, how do you debunk the truth from the fake or whatever it is? And the best way to do that is to find a journaled article that doesn't have an axe to grind, and they'll tell you if they have conflicts and things like that. So how to read a scientific paper goes over that. But this is your source to find the truth as best that we can, and I hope that's useful. So we're going to be doing that. It follows along with the case studies, and I hope you enjoy. I'm going to be writing a few of the case studies for this particular class because the ones that I pull on are usually medically oriented, although I'll include some of those because I like to gross out my students. But anyhow, I hope you enjoy the case studies. Some of you may have done those, maybe you haven't. But it doesn't matter if you're medically oriented or not. A lot of them are just basic biology type case studies. Now the chapter quizzes, there's going to be two ways that I look at this. You're going to have a PDF that you can go through the just sort of a written form and practice, and then I'll actually have a not simulated, but a practice exam, the way you would get the midterm or final in here. We're only going to have two exams, the midterm and the final, and the breakdown in chapters and the timing. I'm working on that now, so I will come out with that. But obviously, for right now, chapters 1 and 2 as we go along. And at some point in the mid part of the course, we'll stop and we'll take a quiz or an exam. And again, the weights of the exam are lower, so you can balance it with the worksheets that I provide and the case studies. So you've got a really excellent chance of doing well in this class, but at the same time, you're going to hopefully have things that help you make decisions that are important to you for your family and improve your life. That's the goal. So there's the PDF, and we'll just go from there. The lab part, the Odigia Lab sections, we're going to go over various chemistry, cell biology, various things. I'm going to enhance these for some of my material. Going over the microscope. I actually have a microscope where you can see what I'm looking at in the field, so you can actually see the microorganisms or whatever it is, and then various other things. I have lots of videos, and hopefully it'll be of interest to you. But the idea is I just want you to have some good experience. We can't meet in the lab, and it's unfortunate. I don't think I can totally replace, and you know that's the case. But we have to do these sorts of structured types of labs, and that's why you had to pay a little extra, but that ensures that the course will transfer because you've had the rigor of a good lab and the best that we can do under these circumstances, and that's all I can hope for. So there's the list of things that we're going to cover, and I hopefully am trying to debug the links before we get started on the labs, and so far it looks pretty good. And then the final is the lab assignment itself, and I post them using a scientific method and a laboratory orientation safety. So you will have these in there, and sometimes I supplement with my own materials, and so you can do those. So that's really what I wanted to try to convey to you. There's other things if you have questions, but try to keep everything consistent. So every week it will have the same layout. There's no tricks or hidden anything. I really work hard not to blindside my students. I don't think that's cool. I don't do that. I usually send around an announcement when I post an assignment, but they'll be in the assignment section, and I'm working on doing summaries now so that it's a checklist. But really what I had done with the way I did the layout, there's your checklist right there. All the things that you do are kind of there, and I'm just going to summarize that on one page so you can see everything. But you don't have to wait on me for the summary. It's really here. It's just in a different format, and I hope you like that. I love to get your feedback. So in the roll polls that I do, in other words, it's just a Google form, and you fill in the information. Makes it really nice. I can convey to the registrar that you've been here and you're doing the work and that sort of thing. And yeah, please don't have your dog check in for you. You know, it's I'm just joking. The course is designed for you. I really try to work hard to make it relate to things in your life. And it's important that you have some of these things, because some of the choices that we do, like when we eat, I tell you, the food that we eat, we got to be careful. Some of it is not very healthy, and over time it's going to wear you down, and hopefully we'll avoid some of those things. So anyhow, that is the overview that I wanted to try to convey. I hope it was helpful, and we'll move on from here. Thank you for your time.